Welcome to SCivCast, a civilization podcast focused on its social media platforms. Pawprint 42.
Angel Ledwich.
Josee Gendron.
RobG.
Dave C.
My mom is on the phone. All right, guys, I gotta talk to my mom. I'm sorry. I'll be back.
Just add her in. Just add her into the conversation.
Sure.
Mom, you're disturbing me. I'm in a podcast right now, so you need to call back later.
Just talking to complete strangers I've never met.
I know. My husband's like, well, you're making lasagna. I'm like, it's in the oven. I'm going on my podcast. And he's like, but, can't you just... No, I'm going on my podcast. When it dings, you can add the Parmesan on the top and let it cook another 15 minutes. You're in charge of the lasagna. He's like, oh, okay. I'll watch my hockey game.
Over here, it was, you're going to go talk to your little friends from your game.
Yeah. No, usually what he asks me is like, oh, you have a war?
Hey,
because then he loses me for
much.
a couple of hours, right?
Our conversation topic is communicating within Civ and outside of Civ, because obviously CivWorld is more than just in-game. It's the whole community that has grown up on Facebook around Civ that has meandered off into other areas. Part of it is communicating with the non-CivWorld spouses about the game, because of course it goes over their head about as much as sports goes over people who don't watch sports, and geek stuff goes over the head of non-geeks, and, it's its own little world.
Definitely. I think he's starting to get a little grasp of what I do, but, I can see if I try to explain anything to him that after a couple minutes I totally lost him and he's like, okay, and he goes away. You have to be in that community to really understand what we're doing, and he likes Civ, he doesn't like the social aspect of it on Facebook, I guess, so... For me, that's what the difficulty is, like, oh, Civ, yeah, it seems important, but you keep typing and chatting with people, you don't play. Well, no, I play, that's how we play.
When I run into a new player in a game who talks, in the game chat, usually lesson number one that I teach them is I try to friend them and then start using Facebook chat immediately. And they are usually immediately relieved to not have to use the game chat. And I consider that lesson one is we never use the game chat to communicate. And communication is 1,000 times more effective outside of the game chat.
Yes, I learned that in my third game playing Civ ever, how to set up a group, how to set up the chat, and how much easier it was to actually play the game when you don't have to deal with the in-game chat, even though that's obviously where you have to make your first connection. You have to do it within the game, especially if you're playing with people who have never played before or people you haven't played with before, and why I now have 1 million Civ friends.
Yeah. Another thing I would recommend to new players, in a lot of the games that I'm in now, it's usually one team of closed border nation freight training its way through the game.
Sorry.
And the game has been around long enough now that if you were to start asking questions on how to play the game or you don't understand something, there's a 99% chance that the players in that group will answer that question or point you in the right direction on where to get answers for those questions in terms of the other Facebook groups that have been created. I think a lot of these players, when they're in games, they will quickly find that within their own nations, there might be 2 or 3 other people who are willing to even talk to each other. And then soon they will find there's maybe 1 or 2 in another nation that are talking, but they're not working. They're not obviously in the same nation. And I would encourage them to get together and form your own nation in that game. Get out of the nation where they're not talking to each other. The key to playing the game well is to communicate. it can be tedious to sit in a nation where nobody's talking to each other and you're just kind of blindly going along, not sure what anyone else is doing. I would say it is totally legitimate to move out of one nation and form another nation or jump into another nation. And I would strongly encourage, if you're one of the people who is talking, join up with the other talkers, because you will have a much better game experience working together.
Definitely. I think also sometimes, they will join a team without asking them, and that's always the risk that you have when you leave your borders open. Many things happen, as we've seen in the last few games. And having a new player in the game is not trouble unless, you're almost full, you're trying to get friends to join you or whatever. So talking on global and asking, or even sending a private message and say, hey, you guys seem to be doing good. Can I join? I'd like to learn. Asking and communicating before they come in, I know, is certainly appreciated. And most of the time, the teams will take them on because they know they can communicate. I think the reluctance that other players would have would be with, being afraid of a lack of communication, that somebody's just coming in and is not going to answer, is not part of the Facebook chat that we all use. So starting that communication early on global certainly helps to establish some trust and some basics of what people need and what they want to do.
That brings up etiquette. I mean, don't you think there's a different level of etiquette for beginner players as opposed to advanced players? And even on top of that, like guild games, there's just certain etiquettes that are followed, but I personally don't expect or demand, a new player to friend me. I've been turned down a few times. But if they want to be on my team, I would prefer that they find some way of communicating with me. Even if it's through, even a separate person. I don't mind that even. I think it's important for the more advanced players to remember that new players won't have those rules of etiquette. I kind of chewed out recently because I had really high expectations of a new player because I played with him in another game, another Facebook game, and he was really advanced and really, on ball on everything. He came to Civ and he told me, that I was expecting too much from him. And I was like, I'm really sorry. I guess I did take a year to learn this game before I really met any advanced players, and I should give you that time too.
If people don't ask questions, you can suggest things, but it's not always well received because everybody has a different perception of the options that the game has for them, but also they might not have the same goals that you do. And they're trying things. I mean, that's how I learned, how to set up a city. It's by doing different things and trial and error and say, oh, look at that. I'm doing 3 more hammers here. What's different, and trying to look. And so that's how people learn. And you can't always push information on them. I think if they ask questions, it's great to give them the answers and to definitely help them out. You don't ignore them, but at the same time, you can't try to push it on them and say, you look at a city and you're like, oh, wow, this could be set up totally differently and give really hammers to the team, but you just can't do that. You can't push it on them.
For me, so many times when I've tried to chat with newbies, I get no response.
Right.
And it's rather frustrating.
I try different languages, and then I tell Josee to speak French to them.
With that said, though, I think one of the biggest differences I notice with the newer players that are coming in is they are learning way faster than I learned. I think it helps that the game's been around for a while. It's not like the very earliest games back in July and August where you basically had 200 players who were like, what in the hell is going on? And there's just a small group of them that really knew what was actually happening, and the entire server was always full. The reality is now, I'm impressed with some of the newer players and how quickly they pick up on some of the nuances of the game that were out of my range altogether for quite some time. Because for the longest time, I just played pretty much solo, and I refused to play with groups of players. So that was my own fault. But,
And certainly I think being a new player these days, there is so much information now available that wasn't available to us when we all started in the open beta. There is a wealth of knowledge in the forums. There is definitely a wealth of knowledge in sites like the Tavern and CivWorld Bacon and the CivWorld Hints and Tips that all of us now veteran expert players have been learning and trying out and playing with for the last year and a half, that now new players can come in and benefit from our experience and pick up things. But communication is still key. It's great if you want to play independent and alone, but I think that given that this is on a social network, that for the most part, people are expecting people to be social in the game. It's not Farmville, it's not SimCity, it's not log in for 5 minutes at a time and harvest and go away again. It's a strategy game, and it's a real-time strategy game. And certainly I've been in games that have lasted 6 weeks to several months, to my farm now is going on almost a year. But we've also played in games that have only lasted 3 days. And the reason they go for only 3 days is because we are online, communicating with each other, doing stuff very quickly.
A lot of this communication we're talking about and how to work effectively with the team highlights there's one part of the tutorial that just absolutely stands out as so mind-numbingly not helpful. It says, now go win an era. Really? As a single person in a game, good luck to you as a new player fulfilling that part of your tutorial. Just push skip and move on, because it is the most unhelpful. It basically implies that it's so easy. Just go ahead on out there. You'll be fine. You're one little player. Just hop in some nation. You'll win an era. A lot of what we're talking about here pretty much, flies right in the face of that one particular part of the tutorial that I just find absolutely hilarious.
I think that tutorial is made and was created with keeping in mind that people that play Civ usually played that game alone on their computers and never had to depend on anybody else. And it is a shock for them to realize that they need other people, at least to learn the game. Learning the game on your own takes a lot longer. It's designed, I think, so that they can understand the basics of it, but it lacks definitely in that aspect of communication where you can't just win an era. You need other people to win that era, and you need to talk to people to achieve goals. I think that part is definitely missing for the new players, sadly.
It's been so very, very long since I even went through the tutorial the last time, but I know for me as a new player, it didn't do anything to help because I spent my entire first game as an independent. I missed the part where you actually had to join a Civ to do anything in the game.
But you didn't miss it. They don't tell you in the tutorial. That's the thing.
It's like I remember the bit about it giving you the great people and building houses and go on global and type something in chat, and that's about as far as my memory goes at this point,
I find most players see the game as I have to win out the entire game. My team or me as an individual needs to be the number one player in the game, and we're going to work together and we're going to win out the whole server. And I think it helps players if you're in games where you're not on one of those teams. You're not on the team that's freight training through the game. You need to find ways to make the game fun for you and kind of set your own goals within the game to make it fun, to make it challenging, to make you want to learn the game more. Whether that's finding a 1 or 2 person or small nation and just raising gold and see if you can't steal like econ eras towards the end of the game. One of my favorite challenges when I played solo for a while is I would get myself in a situation where I would finally be in a nation by myself and I would just do battles, lots of battles. Some people are like intimidated by them, don't know how to work them correctly. One of the best ways of learning them is just do tons of battles. And my goal would be, how many techs could I pick up just doing battles before the game ended? Obviously, it's very entertaining. Are you going to win a ton of eras? Nope. A lot of like the way the game is supposed to be set up and played, you're not doing it. You can pretty much fly in the face of it and still have a very good time and learn lots about the game by not playing it the way it's intended.
Battles aren't exactly my forte, but I do find it interesting, the whole strategic withdrawal. Sometimes you throw in a lot of battles out there, and you're mostly just watching maybe to see who gets their mini games up, in one Civ, and maybe you're watching to see who logs in for the battle at all. Those types of things I have found very interesting to do with players I've never played with before. Obviously there's a community of players here that log in 24/7 and all have 500 battle bonuses, so I don't even need to watch for that anymore. But, with the quieter community where I don't know anyone in the game, I do like to watch for that. And I like to share that information with the other people there, the ones who are like, why do we declare war on this person? I was like, well, they've got 3 techs we don't have, and if no one shows up, that's an easy way to get those technologies. And it clues them in. They're like, oh, I never thought, they didn't realize. It's not in the tutorial, is it?
No, it's not. But also, I think people think that they have to go to war only if it gives them an era. And that's not the case. Why are we attacking? It's not going to give us an era. No, it's not. But we're going to get wonders and we're going to get techs. Or we're just going to kill the time because this game is boring right now. We need some action.
Or we're going to make them use all their hammers on defensive tech instead of building attacking troops.
Right.
If they're all like on technology and now you've declared war on them and they see you're all as, I shouldn't give away all this fun strategy, but if they'll turn into hammers instead of science speaker monkeys, and I like to make people switch gears. I like to see them all, we've got a battle coming up, we all have to switch to hammers now, and then I like to make our team do the tech. I'm like, let's catch up. They think we're going to try this battle because we've been hammers this whole time. No, let's do tech now. I like to do that to other people. I can't be the only one who does that, am I?
No.
There's a lot of information. When you start that game, it's almost overwhelming, all the little different things that you do all at once. So if I compare to Civ 4 that I was playing before I started playing CivWorld, where it's a turn-based game, you play. It's constant. And you're bombarded with information. There's chat. You're trying to set up your city. You're trying to figure out how you're going to get hammers to set up your cities. And again, when you're just starting and you're alone and you're not chaperoned or you're not being helped by anybody, chat is the last thing you look. I think it took me a whole game to start looking at global. I didn't even realize what that was. And then I saw somebody was actually sending me private messages that I totally ignored because it took me half the game to realize, what's that 3 on top of that orange thing there? And clicking on it and seeing that somebody was getting angry trying to send me messages that I was not responding to because I didn't know what it was. I can assume that other people are the same. And so it takes a few games for them to see what it is. And the other part of it, I think, is that sometimes we, as experienced players, we neglect the regular Civ chat because we are on Facebook chat and we don't like the other. And so we don't look on the nation chat. And sometimes other players will chat there and it takes you a couple of hours to see the post. And you're like, oops, we forgot to tell them that's what we were trying to do because we're talking amongst ourselves on that little Facebook chat and we ignore the rest of the chat. So I think it goes both ways.
Actually, what I find is I'm usually using that in-game chat a lot to talk to these players that are obviously trying to learn how to play the game. And usually a day later, I'll get a response back. Oh, I should have done that. You should have done that like a minute or two right after I sent you that post is when you should have done that, not 12 hours later.
I went to a completely noob server just for a break. I was happy just to set up a Civ on my own.
and be queen of that and just go maze crazy. I didn't even do a lot of spam or anything. I just wanted to play and see how things were going. And it didn't take very long before like a few other smaller they weren't smaller than me. I was a single person, but they were small civs, maybe 2 or 3 people. They did a lot of that visiting. You can visit someone's town, and they were like, you should come join us. We like your beaker monkey. Well, they didn't say beaker monkeys. We like your scientists. You need to bring those houses over here. And I was like, why? I like my little civ. I'm queen over here. I can do whatever I want. And they were like, well, we want to go and attack these people. We want to cause some trouble. And I was like, why? They don't have any wonders or any tech. You won't even get a Dom era out of it. And they were like speechless. Like they wouldn't say anything back. I guess they really didn't know why they were attacking except to cause trouble. I didn't mind communicating with them and answering questions, but I didn't really want to join their little drama that was going on. And they weren't even like on global. It was all private message. So I was really happy again that it wasn't on global, that they were being, let's all attack Africa or let's all attack China. It was all very quiet, but ultimately in the end, it was still just a noob game. It was just me being bored and wanting to play alone. But they are communicating. Be warned. They are communicating. They just don't know what they want yet.
There's a game I'm in right now. Purposely went into this game to play the game with a new player, and I had to use some trickery to get into that game because there's no way the filter was going to show me that game because of the disparity between how he'd basically played one game. I think until he gets to the point where he's not just automatically shuffled off to the next game that he has no control over. Says you go to look for the game and there's no number even remotely close to the one that they're claiming that they can see and that they're in. It's a good game. And I think it's, just the reality of, I think the server tries to keep the addicts away from the new kids.
Yeah, but the weird thing that I've experienced when I go and take a look at my throne room to see the list of available games is that the first few games listed will be some game that, most of the players of an entire guild that I'm friends with are in, not necessarily my guild, but to be honest, I've now friended so many Civ players. I never have a server on my available list that I do not have at least one friend or ally on.
Same here, yeah.
I'm always relieved, though, when I'm in a game where I don't know anybody, but I see, like, one really active player, and I talk to them. I offer friendship on Facebook, and they go, okay, and I friend them, and then they go, oh, you're so-and-so's friend, too. And I'm like, oh, no wonder you're so good at the game.
It's a very, very small community. It's like, when you see some other good player in the game, you can search your Facebook friends, and you got a pretty good chance of finding a friend of a friend.
Yeah, 6 degrees of CivWorld.
Yeah, except it's more like 2.
Yeah.
Hi, Josee.
I better shut down Civ, actually, because I'm going to get a ton of beeping. As soon as I get on, people start chatting, so...
Oh, of course, yes.
Wrong button and cut you off. I was trying to get back to the chat screen on Skype.
Are you trying to make more bloopers for the real?
I'm good with bloopers. You have no idea.
That would be a great intro, actually.
It would be a great intro. I hung up on you. Let's do this again. We hope you've enjoyed this, the 5th episode of SCivCast. What follows are bloopers from our recordings to date that Dan Q, the show's owner and editor...
Hi, SCivCasters. That's me. ...
has saved for such an occasion.
You're welcome.
I haven't thanked you.
I was speaking to the audience.
Well, they haven't thanked you either.
But they will.
Should I be worried?
I'm opening a beer. Edit this out, please. Actually, I think maybe that should be the intro, like the very first thing you hear. Troy, did you invite all your friends to try and beat me in that game, or was that a different game?
No.
Okay.
I've never done that.
Okay.
I mean, I used to do that when people were getting bullied in a game. I would come into a game, but never against you, Ed.
Okay.
So now people should be scared of you. Wait, did that come out wrong?
Maybe.
Josee should be there now.
Yes, I am. I'm here.
And I'm told we're supposed to ask you what you had for dinner, Josee.
I had the shrimp fajitas made by my husband. So
You just say it so cute. You know, when you said it earlier, me and my husband were just like trying not to giggle.
Oh, really?
Because you say it so cute.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Someone run the show.
If I can
I'm
breathe.
still laughing, so. Oh, that was too funny.
Okay, well, don't lose any of that shrimp fajita. Fajita?
Fajita.
Fajita. So cute. Oh, man.
You know that's staying on now, right? It's going to stay on his podcast forever. Oh, fajita. It's so cute.
Yeah. Once told me I needed to complete a wonder, and I said, okay, I'm waiting for your go. And he typed go. So I put in a great person, and he was like, no, I meant the word no. And I'm like, you typed no incorrectly? I'm never doing that again. Go and no. Very big difference in the word. Every time the 7-year-old starts in about backyard monsters, I started about Civ. He gets quiet, and he goes, yeah, whatever, Mom. And then he starts back in with the backyard monsters, and then I got to start back up with the Civ. And it's definitely the clue that I care about backyard monsters as much as he cares about Civ.
It just doesn't matter. Okay, I killed the conversation.
We've also had at least 3 spontaneous junkie chats because Civ has been down for some time.
I know, everybody going into withdrawal and thinking, wow, I want to log on. And I remember from work actually getting on Civ and asking Angel, is it working yet? So when I come home, I can play. And she was like, no, it's still not up. And I was like, oh, crap, I want to go on. What's going on? And I'm at work. I still have 4 hours to do. And all I could think about is log on this game. So the communication part, I think, has become so important for some of us that we communicate through the game. You know, we get together, play a game, and then it initiates different conversations. And so some of us exploit the social media aspect of it, I think, to the max, where other players come in and they don't really want to be part of that chat long term, and they'll close down their chat because they find it distracting, a deterrent to the actual game. So it's finding a limit, you know, and a middle ground, I guess, so that when you play a game, you can get all your players involved in that communication to a level that they can follow. And I think that's the hard part.
When we have our own Facebook chat on the bottom of the screen, and sometimes we can get distracted by trash talk on global, and sometimes people are purposely trash talking on global to distract you from the game. If you go on global and start trash talking back, I've seen our leaders in that game go, stop talking on global and focus. You know, because that's all it is over there. It's just trash talk, it's just distraction, it's the enemy's way of trying to stop you from focusing on your team play.
There is such a thing as over-communication, you know, too much of it.
Are you listening, Angel?
Yeah, sorry.
And that was not a jab at Angel, but...
No,
Record date, February 2nd, 2013.
Star date.
Beefy up.
Resistance is futile. I got to say it. Yay!
Civilization World sound clips, copyright Take-Two Interactive. Copyright Civilized Communication at civcom.net.